It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about back after a little hiatus. Before we start off today's show, thank you to the good folks at Teamsters Local 959 out in Anchorage, Alaska. Actually, all of Alaska, for bringing us out to do our song and dance, do our show from Anchorage, and also to talk to the faithful, talk to their steward school. Had the opportunity to talk about the importance of unionism, the importance of building a culture of unionism, and the idea that union jobs lead to better lives, and to rile up the crowd, to get them out there to go and change the world. And it was a fantastic time we had with my union brothers and sisters out there with 959 and Gary Dixon, the secretary-treasurer, and all of his staff. Fantastic people. Love those folks out there. And I got to tell you, love Alaska. We spent, we were there a couple of years ago. We went back. It was almost, as my wife said, it was like going home. Had such a good time. Got to see some really great stuff. We were up for the Northern Lights up in Denali National Park. We also, went and did the boat ride in Seward and did some hiking on a whole bunch of different glacier trails. It was a fantastic time. Got to bring the kids along. It was great stuff. And again, thank you to the good folks at Teamsters Local 959. It was fantastic. I look forward to the next time. And any other unions out there want to bring us out to talk about the culture of unionism, building that culture, and how union jobs build better lives, just let me know. We love going out and talking to our union brothers and sisters and the folks who are out there every day making lives better. So I'm looking forward to that. But here we go. It is Striketober. And I got to tell you, I've been talking about this for a while and how important this moment really is. And I go back to this moment. In 2009 and 2010, I was saying, we could be on the precipice of a moment of labor action that we haven't seen in generations. Didn't happen because we hadn't done really the groundwork. You think of the organizing of the 40s and the 50s. That happened because in the 20s and 30s, the organizing that happened and the beatings that working people took, that they laid the groundwork. Well, we've sufficiently laid the groundwork over the last several years to get people organized, to activate folks, and for people to say, you know what, I've really had enough. And it is what we're seeing. And look, happy Striketober, and it's about time. We've seen more than 100,000 workers from across this country cross onto that picket line and go on strike or authorize strikes in the last few weeks. Demanding the same things we've been talking about, demanding dignity, demanding respect, but also better wages, hours, conditions. So yeah, it's Striketober, and we need this. And I'm hoping it turns into Strike November and Strike December until we raise the standard of living in this country for all working people. And like I said, while we're seeing more and more workers standing up, we're seeing also more wins and significant wins. And let me start congratulations to the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, IATSI. Before we left, we were talking about the potential. They had voted overwhelming, like 98%, to go on strike. They didn't have to go on strike to win what are major improvements in their contract. A living wage for the lowest wage employees, improved working conditions, improved wages for people in the streaming industry, retroactive wage increases of 3% annually. They've got increased penalties for breaking their meal breaks, a daily rest period of 10 hours without exclusion. So they get 10 hours off. I know, right? Who could have imagined? But you think about these movie sets. They, from what I've always heard, they are brutal. They also have a weekend rest break now of 54 hours. So no more, sorry, we're going to work you 100 hours a week. They're also going to add Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as a holiday to their schedule. and they have adopted some diversity, equity, and inclusive initiatives into their contract that was never there before. These are all, as I've been told, major steps forward and wouldn't have happened unless these workers came forward and said overwhelmingly 98% they were willing to go on strike. They were willing to shut everything down. Now, a couple years ago, had they done this, I don't know we'd have seen the same outcome, because what we're seeing across the country is we're seeing strikes going on all over the place and ones that are being won. And that, I think, is going to send a message for a lot of other places. This could be, as victory and winning, kind of contagious. It's one of those things where once it starts, it snowballs, which is why we're seeing so many more places saying that, hey, we're taking to the picket line. I look at John Deere, the people who make the big giant tractors, the green tractors that everyone loves. They've been on strike now for a little, 2 weeks. And you hear the stories coming out of there that, their CEO is making, tens of millions of dollars. The company's wildly profitable. Shareholders are being taken care of. But the workers got screwed back in the 90s with a two-tier wage system. So again, what you had is the older employees did really well. They were making, really big money. But in 97, they went to a two-tier wage system, saying anyone hired after a certain date in 97, they were going to make significantly less per hour. They were going to make less in their pension contributions, and they were going to have worse health care. And again, unions are workplace democracy. This is what the members back then saddled these workers with today. And now they got to go back and they got to fight that. Because, they're making $19-20 an hour, which you go, $19-20 an hour is a good wage. No, not really. Not when you're talking about the kind of skill and the kind of working conditions that these folks are in. As the one guy said, I can go work down the street at the gas station or a warehouse and make almost the same money. What's my craft worth? And this is part of the reason why they're saying, look, we don't want $1 or $2 an hour raise. We want like $5. And this is what all of the people who were against the Fight for 15 movement were dead set against. This is what their fear was. That if the gas station was paying $15 an hour, if the McDonald's was paying $15 an hour, these skilled workers who haven't seen a significant raise in 20, 30 years, that they'd start saying, well, wait a second, I'm no longer grateful to just have a job. I now want a piece of the pie that I helped to create. And this is going to get bigger, I think. The more people see that, hey, you know what, I have been making good money, pretty good money. I've been doing okay. But it's not what my parents got. I tell the story all the time. When I started working in the trucking industry back in the late 80s, we were making back then $14-15 an hour to start, 18 top rate. Today it's what, $18 to start, 26 top rate, over 30 plus years. I mean, that's not what it should be. When you go back and you do the Bureau of Labor Statistics and inflation calculator, that wage that I started at back in the late 80s would be like $32-33 an hour today to start. So where did that difference in wages go from what I was making 33 years ago with an incredible healthcare package, with an incredible pension package? Where did all that go? Well, we know where it went. It went to cutthroat competition being part of it, because when I started, the LTL trucking industry was 85% unionized. It's now down to about 15%, thank you to Ronald Reagan and all of the attacks on labor over the years. But more importantly, it's gone to massive CEO pay in the tens of millions of dollars, and to shareholders who are lining their pockets every day, and they've never lifted a box or turned a wheel. What they've done is they've taken money out of one pocket and put it in the other, and that's the hardest day's work they've ever done. And workers are saying enough already. We want to claw some of that back. And like I said, we've been seeing strikes popping up. The John Deere one, like I said, the Warrior Met Coal down in Alabama, they've been on strike for several months now because, again, they took massive concessions to help save this company from bankruptcy, to help make it profitable. And when they finally turned it around and they were expecting what they were promised, they were told no. And now they're on strike going, look, we want what we were entitled to. We want what we worked so hard and sacrificed for to keep that company afloat and to make them profitable, only to be basically shoved up the where. Also, as we've had on the program, you've got the 800 nurses still in Worcester, Massachusetts on strike because the company doesn't want to give them their seniority back. They've already agreed to a tentative contract. It's now just how much pain can the employer impose on these workers as they come back. That's what this is about. And we're going to see this all over the place. You're going to see this kind of just nonsense. But the reality is we're seeing more of these. I mean, you've got the 2,000 healthcare workers in Buffalo, New York, who have been on strike. You've got the 1,400 Kellogg employees who across the country are on strike. All of them with the same kind of call. We want better wages, hours, conditions, but we want dignity and respect. We want to close two-tier wage structures so that work pays everyone. I say this every time a new president comes into office, that my hope has always been that you figure out a way to make work pay, to make that reward for work there. And finally, we're seeing people are going, look, maybe we don't need politicians. Maybe we need the kind of militancy and direct action that I've been calling for all 16 years of doing this program. Because what we know is corporate America has been wildly profitable. We've created multiple billionaires. In fact, we've got, what is it? Something like, I don't know what the number was, something like 745 billionaires. And, that's up like 150 just over the last several months. Our 745 billionaires, they now hold, and this is the part that just blows my mind, they now hold $5 trillion worth of wealth. Our friends at the Institute for Policy Studies and Americans for Tax Fairness, they came out with some numbers that just blow your mind. The fact that our U.S. billionaires are heavy 745, because it had been just over 600 not too long ago. Now we're at 745. They've seen their wealth soar by 70%. 70%. $2.1 trillion just during the pandemic. That just completely blows my mind. And that in the pandemic, we had 614 billionaires. We're not 745. We created billionaires at a time when people have lost jobs, when we're going to start kicking people out of their homes, when they're talking about restarting payments for student loans, going, oh yeah, how's that going to work out? But our billionaire class, we can't tax them anymore because the entire Republican Party is against taxing them. And of course, Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. And you just go, when do we wake up from this kind of nonsense? And I get emails from people all the time who are going, but Rick, we don't need them stinking unions anymore. And, we don't need, to tax billionaires. We just need to work harder and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. I mean, I chuckle just saying how stupid that is. But yet there are some who keep pushing this idea, keep pushing at us that no, taxes are bad. I mean, they've sufficiently trained an entire working class to whenever they hear taxes that we somehow begin to foam at the mouth without ever asking, who are you talking about going after to pay their fair share? I would point to 745 billionaires who probably pay a lower tax rate than anyone listening to this program. Our number one billionaire for a couple of years paid nothing. Explain that. Because it doesn't make any sense. And then they say, well, we can't afford to rebuild the country, Rick. We can't afford to help poor children with a monthly tax credit. We can't possibly help like that. We can't possibly build our roads and bridges. We can't possibly get Granny some new chompers. We can't do any of those things because we're broke. And yet, 60% of what Biden has proposed, 60% of the money that we need in Biden's Build Back Better plan could come from just those 745 people. You can fit in a big room if you just had a reasonable tax code, which we do not. And it's frustrating and it's angering when you look at just how insane our tax code is. And look, I get the emails from the right-wing groups all the time. Joe Biden's usurping the government by using the IRS as a weapon against you. Not me. I pay my taxes every year. And I pay a lot of them. But I look at our heavy, now 745, not so much. And ask yourself, you got Elon Musk, the richest person in I guess ever now. In the 19 months since the pandemic, his wealth has grown over 750%. You go, well, but he's gone into the space with the rocket, right? He's doing the electric vehicles. Yeah, he is, and that's great. But how is it that he's paying a lower tax rate than the person who's actually building the cars that he's profiting off of and paying, poor wages with horrible working conditions, from what I'm told? I mean, it's outrageous. And yet there's a point that it comes up where you go, when do we say enough is enough? When do we finally go, we're going to tax the wealthy. We're going to make corporations pay a higher tax rate. We're going to finally make them pay taxes. Because again, we got a bunch of them that pay nothing. So when do you say enough? I think we're seeing it all across the country. I think we're seeing workers who have said, the CEO who runs our company, making millions of dollars while we're struggling just to make sure our kids got shoes on their feet, make sure the kids have a roof over their head, worried about, am I ever going to be able to retire because they've so badly broken our retirement system? And then we hear all the screeds about, inflation's horrible. You know who's screaming that the loudest? All the people who have been holding wages down, who now are finally seeing those wages rise. It's our responsibility to take this moment, move it forward, rebuild the standard of living that made this country great. Rebuild that prosperous working class that gave every family an opportunity, a shot at that American dream. With decent wages, health security, retirement security, all of those things. I think we're in that moment. In fact, I know we are. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Tell me what you think. Right back. Stick around.
Then workers standing up, and the union gives a voice to win. On the Rick Smith Show.